Good day everyone. Our topic for today is about risk assessment cycle. Risk identification is the process of determining the risk that could potentially prevent the program, enterprises, or investment from achieving its objectives. No business is without risk, but the key to any business is understanding the importance of preventing, minimizing, or eliminating risk whenever possible in order to prevent losses. After all, less risk should theoretically create more success for the business. Whether the risk is due to economic issues, financial rates, industry regulations, business costs, or political influences, risk can cause a business to lose money or ultimately go under. Without identifying risk using risk management, a business cannot successfully define objectives. For example, risk identification may include assessing IT security trends such as malware, accidents, natural disasters, and other potentially harmful events that could disrupt business operation. Risk mitigation is one element of risk management, and its implementation will differ by organization. Although the principle of risk mitigation is to prepare a business for all potential risks, a proper risk mitigation plan will weigh the impact of each risk and prioritize planning around the impact. Risk mitigation is a strategy to prepare for a lessen the effect of trends faced by a data center. Comparable to risk reduction, risk mitigation takes steps to reduce the negative effects of trends and disasters on a business continuity. What is the main purpose of mitigation? Mitigation action reduce or eliminate long-term risks and are different from actions taken to prepare for or respond to hazard events. Mitigation activities lessen or eliminate the need for preparedness or response resources in the future. Risk mitigation revolves around reducing the impact of potential risks. For example, a jewelry store might mitigate the risk of theft by having a security system or even a security guard at the entrance. This won't stop all theft occurrences, but it may dissuade criminals from targeting this store over another store that has no security measures. And we have four types of risk mitigating strategies. We have avoidance, acceptance, transfer, and limitation. The first is avoid. In general, risks should be avoided that involve a high probability impact for both financial loss and damage. Next is transfer. Risks that may have a low probability for taking place but would have a large financial impact should be mitigated by being shared or transferred. Example, by purchasing insurance and forming a partnership. The last one is limit. The most common mitigation strategy is risk limitation. Business takes some type of action to address a perceived risk and regulate their exposure. Risk limitation usually employs some risk acceptance and some risk avoidance. Business implementation helps unite departments, open the lines of communication, create a diverse culture within the organization, and increase efficiency and productivity. Successful business implementation links performance factors with project design to develop and optimize individual and departmental activities. Business implementation is important for moving a company forward, as is not understanding the importance of implementation planning. When a business fails to implement and execute its strategies properly, it fails to move forward and grow. The implementation can be done in a various ways. For instance, a marketing campaign project, a number of implementation approaches for the risk management plan are available to develop or maintain the competitive advantage. They include such methods as creating barriers to market entry, establishing competitive pricing, dumping, using new unique technology, innovation, adjusting or reorganizing personal management, etc. Each of these methods implies a very different set of tools for implementation. No matter what methods and tools you are going to choose to implement your risk management plan, there are three fundamental activities that define success, the overall implementation process. We have resource acquisition, resource flow, and resource coordination. First, resource acquisition. Before you start implementing your risk management plan, you need to be certain and correct quantity of required resources is available and ready for use. You can obtain the resources in a range of ways. For example, by purchasing with credit, renting, subcontracting, shared arrangement, and partnership, and etc. The next one is resource flow. It is important to manage the flow of resources. The key idea behind this is to ensure that resources are available at appropriate levels in indeed place and required time. Hence, the flow of resources should be managed in terms of quantity, location, and time. If the use of resources is optimized, then the risk management process is likely to generate optimum output. And the last one is resource coordination. When the resources are acquired and located in the proper way, now you need to coordinate the use of resources throughout the implementation process. This coordination requires you to develop detailed operational plans and conduct day-to-day oversight of the operation. All the resources available for performing your risk management initiative will be driving force that lets you make decision on the scope of implementation process. And the last one is monitor. Risk monitoring is important because it helps to highlight if strategies are effective or not. For every business, it is germane that the performance, growth, and foreseen progress is monitored and evaluated to us to ensure that the business is remain on track. The main purpose of this would be to improve current and future outputs, outcomes, and impact. Monitoring must also form a key part of our growth. For business evaluation, which will be focused on examining relevance, effectiveness, and efficiency, you should try to isolate errors and faults in your business service and operations and make sole recommendation to ensure such aren't repeated. Like for example, you should make use of questionnaires distributed to customers every month to evaluate performance and quality of service rendered. It is very important that as a startup, you should strive to quickly gain customer loyalty. As the leading company in your market, you have to meet every conceivable expectation of the consumers who form your market. Otherwise, your business loses its value and becomes a mere hobby. At some point, any new information learned from monitoring a risk will have to be reported to decision makers so they can determine the next steps. Organizations take risks all the time but fail to monitor and manage these risks effectively in an environment that demands agility.